Arian and Alara, two young souls, meet in college and feel an instant, inexplicable connection. Despite the spark between them, circumstances and family pressures force them apart. Years later, fate brings them back together, but life has changed them. Arian carries his unspoken love, and Alara hides her own regrets. As they navigate past misunderstandings, lingering feelings, and new challenges, their hearts are tested in ways they never imagined. The story is an emotional journey of love, loss, sacrifice, and the hope that true love, no matter the obstacles, can endure across time. Theme: first love, separation, reunion, emotional growth, and bittersweet romance. Mood: heartfelt, emotional, nostalgic, and dramatic. Ending type: emotional and bittersweet, leaving a lasting impact on the reader. The rain fell in slow, relentless sheets, drumming softly against the windows of the old coffee shop on Elm Street. The familiar smell of roasted beans and worn leather chairs greeted Emily as she pushed open the door, shaking off the wet umbrella that had done little to shield her from the storm outside. She loved this place. It was her refuge, a tiny world tucked away from the chaos of the city, where the scent of coffee felt like a warm embrace. She hadn't planned to be here today. Work had been unusually demanding, a relentless tide of emails and deadlines that left her drained. But something, a sudden urge she couldn't explain, had pulled her toward Elm Street. And now, sitting at her usual corner table, she tucked her wet hair behind her ear and tried to settle into the quiet hum of conversations and clinking mugs. Emily glanced out the rain-streaked window, lost in thought. Memories of the past, some bittersweet, danced at the edges of her mind. She had been happy once, truly happy, before life, with all its unexpected turns and harsh lessons, had changed everything. Before Daniel. She hadn't seen him in 10 years. 10 years since the day he had walked out of her life, leaving a void that no one else could fill. The memory of his smile, the one that had made her heart race, still lingered, hauntingly vivid, and yet she had built a life, piece by fragile piece, learning to mask the ache of absence with routine and accomplishment. A soft chime echoed through the cafe as the door opened again, and Emily's eyes lifted automatically. That's when she saw him. Daniel. He looked almost the same, yet older, sharper somehow, with an air of quiet confidence she hadn't remembered. His eyes, those deep, expressive eyes, scanned the room, and for a moment they locked onto hers. Her heart skipped a beat, a staccato rhythm that refused to be tamed. Emily's first instinct was to look away, to pretend she hadn't noticed. But something in the way he moved, the slight hesitation before he ordered his coffee, pulled her gaze back. Daniel had changed, yes, but the essence of him remained. That boyish charm, that gentle warmth that had once wrapped around her heart and refused to let go. He finally turned, as if sensing her stare, and their eyes met again. This time, longer, more intentional. The world outside, the rain, the noise, the city itself faded. There was only the two of them, suspended in a moment neither could fully explain. Emily? His voice was low, cautious, like a question wrapped in uncertainty. She swallowed hard. Daniel. He stepped closer, the chair across from her creaking as he pulled it out. May I sit? Emily nodded, unable to speak. Her mind spun with questions she had long suppressed. Why now? After 10 years? Why had fate, or perhaps coincidence, brought him to the same coffee shop on a stormy Tuesday afternoon? Daniel sat down slowly, his hands folded neatly on the table. There was a tension in the air, thick and almost tangible, like the calm before a storm. I wasn't sure if you'd even remember me, he admitted, his gaze flicking to her hands which were wrapped tightly around her mug. I do, Emily said softly. How could I forget? They sat in silence for a moment, letting the ambient noise fill the gap between them. Outside, the rain continued to fall, a soft percussion against the pavement, as if the world itself was reluctant to interrupt this fragile reunion. Finally, Daniel spoke, his voice heavier this time. "Emily, I never stopped thinking about you." Emily felt a sudden rush of warmth, mingled with the old ache she had carried for years. Her fingers tightened around the mug. "Daniel, why did you leave?" He looked away, his jaw tight. "I thought I was doing the right thing. My family, circumstances, I couldn't stay. I thought I was protecting you." "Protecting me?" Emily's voice broke slightly. "You left me alone. You didn't protect me. You disappeared." Daniel's eyes glistened with unshed emotion. "I know. I know I hurt you. Every day I've regretted it." The intensity of the moment made Emily's chest ache. 10 years of memories, 10 years of longing, all rushing back in a tide she hadn't expected. She remembered the laughter, the stolen moments in the park, the way he had held her hand as if he could shield her from everything. And now, here he was, older, changed, but the same Daniel she had loved. For a while, neither spoke. Words seemed insufficient. Outside, the storm had slowed to a drizzle, and a few stray beams of sunlight broke through the clouds, casting a soft glow on the table between them. Emily finally whispered, "So what now?" Daniel reached across the table, hesitating, then letting his hand hover near hers. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I do know I want to try. I want to fix what I broke." Her heart pounded, the fear, the hope, the longing, all collided inside her. Could she forgive him? Could she let herself feel again after so long? The cafe clock ticked steadily, a quiet reminder that life moved forward even when hearts lingered in the past. And for the first time in a decade, Emily felt a spark of possibility, a fragile, trembling hope that maybe, just maybe, some stories didn't have to end. The rain had stopped completely by the time Emily left the coffee shop. Outside, the city glistened under the washed-clean streets, reflecting the golden haze of streetlights. She clutched her coat tighter around her, not just against the chill, but against the whirlwind of emotions Daniel's sudden reappearance had stirred within her. Walking aimlessly, Emily tried to organize her thoughts. Why now? She asked herself, the question repeating in her mind like a stubborn echo. 10 years? 10 years she had built walls around her heart, thinking she could protect herself from the pain of longing. And yet all it took was a single glance, a single word to make those walls crumble. Meanwhile, Daniel stepped out of the cafe with his own storm of emotions. He had rehearsed how this moment might go 1,000 times in his head, but nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared him for the way her eyes, those familiar, piercing eyes, had found him, had searched him, had somehow measured the years apart and still saw him as he was. He had wanted to say more, to explain everything, to beg for her forgiveness, but the words had lodged in his throat, heavy and unyielding. And so he had settled for the simple truth: I never stopped thinking about you. The city felt different that evening. For Emily, every sound, every passing car seemed to echo with the weight of the past. She remembered walks with Daniel in similar streets, laughing under the streetlights, making promises she had believed would last forever. And she remembered the emptiness that followed when those promises had shattered. Back at her apartment, Emily poured herself a cup of tea, her hands trembling slightly. She sat by the window, staring out at the darkening sky, and allowed herself to think about him without restraint for the first time in years. Every memory she had tried to lock away surged forth,
The gentle brush of his hand against hers, the way he had made her laugh when nothing seemed funny, the warmth of his embrace on nights too cold to bear alone. And yet, alongside the warmth, there was pain. Pain she hadn't realized had never fully healed. The ache of abandonment, the nights spent wondering why he had left, the gnawing emptiness that had accompanied her through the years. She didn't notice the time passing until her phone buzzed on the table. It was a message from Daniel. "I don't expect anything from you. I just want to see you again. Can we meet tomorrow?" Her thumb hovered over the screen, heart pounding. Part of her screamed, "No! Protect yourself! Don't open that door again!" But another part, perhaps the part that had always belonged to him, reached out, longing and desperate. She typed back carefully. "Tomorrow. Cafe on Elm Street, 5 p.m. Daniel's reply was almost instant. "I'll be there. Thank you." The next day, Emily arrived early. She chose a table near the window, watching the passers-by as if their mundane routines could distract her from the storm inside. She sipped her coffee, her mind racing with questions she knew she needed to ask, questions she feared might open wounds she had barely healed. When Daniel arrived, he looked nervous for the first time. He smiled, that same old smile that had once been her sun on cloudy days, and for a moment, Emily's resolve faltered. "Hi," he said softly as he slid into the seat across from her. "Hi," she replied, her voice steadier than she felt. They talked cautiously at first, skimming the surface of years gone by. Where had he been? What had he done? How had life treated him? Emily listened, her heart twisting as she realized that despite the years apart, the rhythm of their conversations still felt familiar, as if no time had passed at all. But underneath their careful dialogue, unspoken words lingered, heavy and unresolved. The years of separation had left scars on both of them, scars that could not be mended by mere conversation. And yet, with every glance, every small laugh, the past seemed to whisper, reminding them of what had once been and perhaps what could still be. Daniel leaned back, running a hand through his hair. "Emily, I don't want to hurt you again. But I can't pretend that I don't feel the same way I did back then." Emily's chest tightened. "Daniel, I've tried to move on. I've built a life without you. But seeing you, it's like nothing ever changed." They sat in silence, each grappling with the same conflicting emotions: longing, fear, hope, and regret. Outside, the world carried on, unaware of the fragile, trembling connection rekindling inside the little cafe. For the first time in years, Emily allowed herself to imagine a future where Daniel might not leave again. And for the first time, Daniel dared to hope that perhaps, after a decade of mistakes, he could make things right. But life, as they both knew, rarely offered such clean resolutions. And as they left the cafe that evening, walking side by side under the dim glow of streetlights, the shadows of their past loomed silently behind them, ready to test the fragile beginnings of their second chance. The night was quiet, the city bathed in a soft amber glow from the streetlights. Emily lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her mind unwilling to let her rest. Daniel's words from the cafe kept echoing in her ears, a haunting melody of longing and regret. "I can't pretend that I don't feel the same way I did back then." She closed her eyes, and suddenly, she was no longer in her apartment. She was 16 again, standing in the small park behind the old library, laughing as Daniel chased her in the fading sunlight. Her heart had felt light then, untouched by worry, untouched by the burdens of life. He had been everything: her best friend, her confidant, the one person who made the world feel safe. But then the memory shifted, darker now. The evening of his departure, the sudden, impossible goodbye. Emily had watched him leave, a storm raging inside her chest, asking questions she couldn't voice. Why now? Why me?
Why couldn't he stay? She remembered the note he left on her desk, folded neatly, simple yet devastating. I wish I could stay, but I have no choice. Remember me, always. For a decade, she had carried that note in her heart alongside the love that refused to die. She had buried it beneath responsibilities, beneath late nights at work, beneath fleeting relationships that never lasted. But it had never gone away. And now, seeing him again, alive and real, brought all of that back with a force she wasn't prepared for. Meanwhile, Daniel was having his own sleepless night. He sat by the window in his apartment, a half-empty cup of coffee cooling beside him. Memories of Emily filled every corner of his mind. The way she had smiled when he told a bad joke, the gentle brush of her hand on his arm, the soft sound of her laughter that had once made the world seem perfect. He had tried to live without her. He had traveled, worked, dated, but none of it mattered. None of it filled the void she had left behind. And now, after 10 years, fate, or perhaps chance, had thrown them together again. He had to know if this was a second chance or just another cruel tease from life. The next morning, they met again at the cafe. This time, the conversation was different. They didn't just speak about the years apart. They began to confront the silence, the misunderstandings, and the unspoken fears that had kept them apart. "Why did you really leave, Daniel?" Emily asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He sighed, looking out the rain-specked window. "My family. They didn't approve. My father had plans for me that didn't include us. I thought I was protecting you from their wrath, from the life I was forced into. I didn't realize I was only hurting you instead." Emily felt a tear slip down her cheek. "You think I didn't suffer? I waited for you, Daniel. Every night I wondered if you were alive, if you thought of me at all. I hated you for leaving me." Daniel reached across the table, gently brushing her hand. "I know, and I've spent every day since regretting it. I was wrong. I should have fought for us." For a moment, time stopped. The city outside, the cafe, even their racing hearts, all seemed to pause, caught between the past and the fragile hope of tomorrow. Emily finally spoke, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I can forgive you, but I can't deny that seeing you again has awakened something I thought I lost forever." Daniel's eyes softened. "Then let's take it slow, one step at a time. No promises, no expectations, just us." Emily nodded, a mixture of relief and fear settling in her chest. The road ahead was uncertain, and the shadows of their past loomed large. But for the first time in years, she felt a spark of hope, a fragile light that maybe, just maybe, love could survive the storms of time and distance. As they left the cafe together, side by side, the world seemed a little less heavy. They didn't know what challenges awaited them, but they had found each other again. And sometimes that was enough to begin healing the wounds that had once seemed insurmountable. Emily woke the next morning with a restless mind. The memory of Daniel's touch lingered, warm yet impossible, like sunlight on frost. She had told herself she would be cautious, that she would guard her heart. But being near him again, seeing the familiar kindness in his eyes, made every carefully constructed boundary feel fragile, almost laughable. Meanwhile, Daniel was already awake, pacing his small apartment. He had made the choice to see her again, to try and rebuild what had been broken. But the weight of reality pressed on him like a storm cloud. Family expectations, lingering guilt, and the fear of rejection gnawed at him relentlessly. He knew that love alone might not be enough to bridge the chasm created by 10 years of absence. By noon, Emily received a message from her mother. "Dinner tonight. Don't be late." She frowned. Her mother had always been skeptical of Daniel, even before he left. Now, after a decade, the old doubts would return tenfold. Emily hesitated, debating whether she should tell Daniel. Eventually, she texted him, "Dinner with family tonight. Not sure if I can meet you later." Almost instantly, his reply came, "I understand. Family matters. I'll wait for you tomorrow. Take care tonight." The words brought a small comfort, but Emily couldn't shake the growing tension. She knew her family would question everything: the sudden reappearance of Daniel in her life, the emotional intensity between them, and the lingering fears of heartbreak. That evening, seated at her family's dining table, Emily felt every eye on her. Her mother's sharp gaze, her father's quiet disapproval, and her younger brother's curious glances created an invisible wall around her. Conversation flowed, but it was laced with the subtle suspicion that Emily was hiding something. Finally, her mother spoke, voice calm but edged with concern. "Emily, is there someone? Someone you've been seeing?" Emily's heart skipped. She chose her words carefully. "Mom, it's complicated. Someone from my past. We just met again. I don't know where this will go." Her mother's eyes narrowed slightly. "From your past, Emily, you can't just reopen old wounds without caution. People leave for a reason. Remember that." Emily nodded silently, though inside a storm raged. Her mother was right. Daniel had left once. Could he stay this time? Could she risk opening her heart again? Meanwhile, Daniel faced his own battles. The day had been filled with work, family obligations, and the persistent hum of doubt. He had returned to the cafe that afternoon hoping to see her, even if it was just for a brief moment, but she hadn't. Instead, he waited, nursing a cup of coffee, replaying their conversation from yesterday over and over. "She's scared," he told himself. "I would be too." The next morning, Emily decided to confront her own fears. She walked to the cafe earlier than usual, hoping Daniel would be there. When she entered, she saw him already seated, a small smile greeting her. "Emily," he said softly, "you came." She forced a small smile. "I needed to. I can't stop thinking about us." Daniel's expression softened, but worry flickered in his eyes. "Emily, there's more than just our feelings now. Your family, my past, it's complicated. We have to be prepared for resistance, for pain, for everything life might throw at us." She nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I know, but I also know I can't ignore what I feel anymore, even if it's hard." For a moment, they sat in silence, the weight of truth settling between them. Outside, the world carried on, unaware of the fragile, trembling hope blossoming inside the little cafe. But in that quiet corner, Emily and Daniel made an unspoken pact. No matter the obstacles, no matter the doubts, they would try. Yet life, as always, was far from simple. As the next days unfolded, subtle challenges began to surface: family suspicions, unexpected encounters from the past, and the internal fears that had shaped their lives for a decade. Each day would test their resolve, each conversation would stir old wounds, and each glance would ignite emotions they barely dared to admit. And through it all, Emily and Daniel clung to one fragile truth: even after 10 years, some bonds could not be broken. The weekend arrived, bringing with it a crisp chill and the muted hum of the city. Emily wandered through the park near her apartment, letting the cold air clear her mind, though it did little to silence the storm within. She had spent the last few days with Daniel, every meeting filled with laughter, stolen glances, and conversations that made her heart ache with the intensity of familiarity. And yet, there was always that shadow looming, the unspoken question of whether this time they could survive the weight of the past. As she walked, her phone buzzed. It was a message from her childhood friend, Rachel. "Hey, Emily, long time. Fancy meeting for coffee? Also, there's someone you should meet. I think you'll want to see him." Emily's stomach tightened. Something about Rachel's vague message felt oddly urgent. She replied with a hesitant "sure" and made her way to the cafe where Rachel had suggested meeting. When she arrived, Rachel waved excitedly from a corner table, a tall figure standing beside her. Emily's heart skipped, not with recognition, but with dread. Standing there was Mark, Daniel's old college friend. "Emily!" Rachel exclaimed. "This is Mark. I thought you two might know each other." Emily froze, her mind racing. Mark. She remembered him from years ago. Daniel's friend, always charming, always protective of him, and always a little too sharp. She had liked him once, briefly, before Daniel had left, and the memory now brought an unexpected pang of jealousy. Mark's eyes met hers, and he smiled politely. "I think I know you from stories," he said carefully, though Emily sensed the subtle curiosity beneath his words. "Daniel mentioned you, years ago." Her throat tightened. Of course he did, she thought bitterly. Everyone remembers him. Over coffee, the conversation was light but loaded with subtle tension. Mark's presence reminded Emily of everything she had buried, the past that she had tried to forget, the love that had been abruptly taken from her, and the fragile hope that now burned anew. As she walked home, Emily couldn't shake the uneasy feeling settling over her. Daniel's past wasn't just memories, it was alive, present, and quietly circling around them. Mark, Rachel, even her own family's doubts, all were reminders that love rarely returned without challenges. Meanwhile, Daniel faced his own complications. Mark had mentioned seeing Emily with Rachel, and Daniel's mind was a swirl of concern and protective instinct. He wanted to trust Emily, to believe in the bond they were rekindling, but years of distance and life's harsh lessons made that trust fragile. That evening, Daniel called Emily. "I heard you met Mark today," he said, his voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of tension. Emily sighed. "Yes, it was fine, but it brought back memories I thought I had left behind." "I just want to make sure you're okay," Daniel admitted. "I don't want anything from the past to hurt what we're trying to build." Emily looked out the window, watching the city lights twinkle like distant stars. "I know, I want this too, Daniel, but the past, it has a way of following us, no matter how far we run." Silence lingered between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. It was a quiet acknowledgement that love was never simple, that even when hearts reunited, life's complexities would continue to test them. The next day, Daniel arrived at Emily's apartment with a small bouquet of flowers, a simple gesture that spoke volumes. "I know things aren't easy," he said softly, "but I want you to know I'm not going anywhere this time. Whatever comes, we face it together." Emily accepted the flowers, her fingers brushing against his. The warmth of that touch spread through her, melting the fear and uncertainty just enough for hope to take root again. But as they stood there, hands almost entwined, neither could see the looming shadow of challenges ahead. Family confrontations, old rivals, and the persistent echoes of choices made long ago. And yet, in that fragile moment, there was a spark, a promise that even when the storm came, they would hold on, fighting not just for love, but for the life they had once imagined together and still dared to dream. The weekend had passed, leaving behind a lingering tension in Emily's home. Her mother's words from the dinner still echoed in her mind. "People leave for a reason, remember that." Each time she tried to focus on her budding relationship with Daniel, a whisper of doubt crept in, subtle but persistent. Could she trust him? Could she allow herself to hope again? That evening, Emily's father approached her with a calm, measured tone. "Emily, your mother and I have noticed you spending a lot of time with someone from your past," he said carefully. "We just want you to be sure. You've built a life without him for a reason. Don't let old feelings cloud your judgment." Emily nodded, her chest tightening. "I understand, Dad. I want to see where this goes. I need to know if we can try again." Her father gave her a long, searching look. "Be careful, Emily. Love is powerful, but it can also be fragile. Make sure you're not setting yourself up for pain." The next morning, Emily met Daniel at their usual cafe. She felt the tension in her chest as she saw him. "We need to talk," she said softly, her hands wrapped tightly around her coffee cup. Daniel's expression immediately became serious. "What's wrong?" "My family, they're worried," I admitted. "They don't trust this sudden return. They're afraid history will repeat itself." Daniel nodded, understanding. "I get it. I know I hurt you once, and I'll probably have to prove 1,000 times over that I won't do it again. But I'm willing to try, Emily. For you, for us." Before Emily could respond, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Mark. "Emily, we need to talk. It's important." Her stomach sank. She had tried to keep the world of her past and present separate, but now the lines were blurring. She hesitated, wondering whether responding would only stir unnecessary tension, but her curiosity and lingering sense of responsibility pushed her to reply. When she met Mark later that day, his expression was grim. "Emily, Daniel isn't the same person you think he is. He's hiding things. I just want you to be careful." Her heart pounded. "What do you mean?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Mark shook his head. "I can't say much, but he's made promises before, promises he couldn't keep. Don't let the past blind you to reality." Her mind raced as she walked back home, each step heavier than the last. Could she trust Daniel? Or was Mark right? Had she been blinded by longing and nostalgia? That evening, she confronted Daniel at the park where they had shared their first conversation after the reunion. The cold wind whipped around them, carrying both tension and unsaid words. "Daniel, I met Mark today," Emily said, her voice trembling. He said you're hiding things, that maybe I shouldn't trust you." Daniel's eyes softened, though a shadow crossed his face. "Emily, I don't know what he said, but I promise you this. Nothing is hidden from you. I've made mistakes, yes. I've been away, yes. But what I feel for you, that's real, and I won't let it be tainted by doubts or rumors." Emily's heart wavered between hope and fear. She wanted to believe him, wanted to surrender to the feelings that had never left her. And yet, the echoes of the past, the warnings from her family, and the caution in Mark's voice made her hesitate. "I want to believe you. I really do. But it's hard. After everything, I don't know if I can just forget the past." Daniel reached out, gently taking her hand. "I don't expect you to forget. I just want the chance to show you that we can move forward, that we can write a new story together." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying the faint scent of rain and the promise of change. Emily looked into Daniel's eyes, searching for honesty, for warmth, for something real. And she found it, an unspoken truth that had survived the years apart. Their connection was undeniable, persistent, and perhaps stronger than anything else in the world. But even as they held hands beneath the flickering streetlights, the shadows of misunderstanding, family doubt, and past secrets loomed ever larger, threatening to test the fragile bond they had just begun to rebuild. The next morning, Emily woke to the sound of rain pattering against her window. The rhythm was soothing, yet her mind was anything but calm. The events of the past week, her reunion with Daniel, the warnings from Mark, and her family's cautious disapproval had left her in a constant state of unease. Could she trust Daniel completely, or was she setting herself up for heartbreak once again? Meanwhile, Daniel was preparing for a meeting at work, his mind split between professional obligations and the fragile thread of hope that tied him to Emily. He had promised her honesty and commitment, yet he knew that actions spoke louder than words, and that the past, persistent as a shadow, could undermine even the strongest intentions. By midday, Emily received a message from Daniel. "Can we meet at the cafe? I want to explain something important." Her heart skipped. She agreed immediately, ignoring the nagging fear in her chest. When she arrived, she saw him waiting by the window, his expression serious but open. "Emily," he began as she took her seat, "there's something I need to tell you, something from my past that I've never shared with anyone. I want to be honest with you because I can't keep secrets anymore." Emily's pulse quickened. She braced herself for a revelation that might shake the fragile trust they had built. "I never told you why I really left. It wasn't just family pressure. There were things I was dealing with, things I was afraid would hurt you if you knew. I was scared that my problems would ruin what we had." Emily leaned forward, eyes searching his. "What kind of problems, Daniel?" He hesitated, the weight of truth pressing down on him. "Financial troubles, mistakes I made at work, debts I couldn't figure out. I thought leaving you behind was protecting you from a life of uncertainty and pain, but I see now that leaving hurt you more than any hardship ever could." Emily's chest tightened. The revelation explained some of the mysterious years, yet it also introduced a new layer of fear. Could she handle the full reality of Daniel's life? Could she trust him fully now? Before she could respond, Daniel added softly, "I know this is a lot. I don't expect you to forgive me immediately. I needed you to know the truth." Tears pricked Emily's eyes, a mixture of frustration, relief, and lingering hurt. "Daniel, I appreciate your honesty, but knowing all this, it's going to take time to process. I can't just erase the past even if you're here now." Daniel nodded solemnly. "I understand. Take all the time you need. I'll be here." The cafe was quiet, the soft hum of conversations around them fading into insignificance. Outside, the rain had slowed to a drizzle, and the world seemed suspended, waiting for the fragile moment between them to solidify or shatter. Later that day, Emily returned home to find her mother waiting. Her sharp eyes softened slightly, though a hint of concern remained. "Emily, Daniel seems sincere, but sincerity doesn't always protect you. You need to be careful. You've been hurt once before." Emily nodded, the weight of responsibility pressing down on her. She wanted to trust Daniel completely, wanted to let go of fear, yet the lessons of the past were difficult to ignore. That night, she called Daniel. "I need to know, if we move forward, can we really face everything together? Not just the good times, but the bad, the unexpected, the challenges?" His voice, warm and unwavering, reassured her. "Emily, I won't promise that it will be easy, but I promise I'll face it all with you. Every obstacle, every shadow from the past, we face it together." Emily exhaled, a mixture of relief and lingering apprehension. For the first time, she felt that they could survive not only the remnants of the past, but also the trials that lay ahead. Yet even as hope flickered between them, the world outside remained unpredictable. Friends, family, and unforeseen events were waiting to test their bond. And in the delicate balance between love and fear, Emily and Daniel would soon discover that some trials demanded more than honesty. They demanded courage, trust, and the willingness to fight for a love that had already survived 10 years of separation. The following week felt heavier than Emily had expected. Every time she thought of Daniel, a pang of fear accompanied the warmth in her chest. Family opinions weighed on her, friends whispered their doubts, and Mark's veiled warnings lingered like shadows at the edge of her thoughts. Could love truly survive the relentless pressure of the world around them? That evening, Emily's mother called her into the living room. Her expression was stern, yet tinged with concern. "Emily," her mother began, folding her hands neatly, "we've tried to understand, but your father and I are worried. This sudden return, Daniel's past, you need to be sure of your feelings. We don't want you hurt again." Emily took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. "Mom, I understand. I know you're concerned, but Daniel has been honest with me, and I want to try. I can't ignore what I feel anymore." Her mother's gaze softened slightly, though the worry didn't fade. "Just be careful. Love is beautiful, but it can also blind you, and sometimes the people we trust the most are not always capable of keeping their promises." Emily nodded, torn between the warmth of her mother's concern and the frustration that love could never simply be free from obstacles. The next day, Daniel arrived at the cafe earlier than usual. He was anxious, his eyes scanning the entrance the moment Emily stepped in. "Hey," he greeted softly, his smile trying to mask the tension. "Hi," she replied, her own smile small but genuine. They sat in silence for a few moments, both aware of the unspoken pressures around them. Finally, Emily spoke. "Daniel, my family isn't easy to convince, and with Mark, I don't know, everything feels complicated." Daniel reached for her hand, holding it gently. "Emily, I know this isn't simple, but I'm willing to face all of it. Your family, my past, anyone who doubts us. I'll face them. As long as we're honest with each other, we can survive this." Just then, the cafe door swung open, and Mark entered, his expression serious. He spotted Emily and Daniel immediately, walking over without hesitation. "Emily, we need to talk," Mark said, his voice low but firm. Daniel's grip on Emily's hand tightened slightly. "Is there a problem?" he asked cautiously. Mark looked at Daniel directly. "I just want to make sure she's aware. You've returned after all these years, but some things aren't as simple as you think. There are consequences to the choices you've made, and she needs to know what she's getting into." Emily felt a mix of frustration and fear. Daniel's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing slightly, though he kept his voice calm. "Mark, I appreciate your concern, but Emily is capable of making her own choices. I'm not hiding anything from her. If there's an issue, we'll deal with it together." Mark's gaze softened briefly, then he nodded, retreating to another table. Emily exhaled slowly, her heart racing. The tension between loyalty, past warnings, and current emotions created a pressure she hadn't anticipated. After a long pause, Daniel spoke softly. "Emily, I know things will get harder. Friends, family, the past, it's all waiting to test us. But if we can hold on through this, I believe we can truly be together." Emily squeezed his hand, feeling both fear and hope. "I want to believe that too. I really do. But it's going to take courage. For both of us." Daniel nodded. "Then we face it together. No matter what." Outside, the city lights flickered, the wind carrying the faint scent of rain. Within the little cafe, two hearts clung to each other, aware that the path ahead was treacherous. The storms of doubt, jealousy, and familial expectations had begun, but Emily and Daniel were determined to walk through them hand in hand, even if it meant facing their deepest fears. The following morning, Emily woke to a sense of foreboding she couldn't shake. The events of the previous days, the confrontations with Mark, the subtle disapproval of her family, and the tension surrounding Daniel's return had left her restless. Something in the air hinted that change was coming, that the fragile peace they had built was about to be tested. By mid-afternoon, Emily received an unexpected call from her cousin, Jessica. someone she hadn't spoken to in years. "Emily," Jessica said, her voice unusually serious, "I don't know if you're aware, but there are things about Daniel's past that you should know. Things he hasn't told you." Emily's heart skipped a beat. "What are you talking about?" "Meet me at the park. I'll explain everything. It's important." Later, as Emily approached the quiet park, she saw Jessica sitting on a bench, her expression grave. Emily sat beside her, sensing the tension in the air. "Emily, I don't want to hurt you, but you deserve the truth," Jessica began. "Years ago, before he left, Daniel made a few decisions that, well, they caused a lot of trouble. He took risks, some financial, some personal, that affected people around him, including me." Emily's hands trembled slightly. "Why didn't he tell me?" Jessica shook her head. "He probably thought it would protect you, but secrets like these have a way of surfacing. You need to know what you're stepping into." The weight of Jessica's words pressed down on Emily. For a moment, she felt betrayed, not by Daniel, but by the uncertainty of the life she was trying to build with him. Could love survive hidden truths? Could her heart endure another shock? Meanwhile, Daniel had sensed the growing tension. He arrived at the cafe later that evening, finding Emily lost in thought, her eyes distant. "Emily, what's wrong?" he asked, his voice soft yet laced with concern. She hesitated, debating whether to tell him about her conversation with Jessica. But the truth demanded courage. "Daniel, I spoke with Jessica today. She mentioned things from your past, things I didn't know about." Daniel's expression shifted, a mix of apprehension and resolve. "I see. Emily, I should have told you everything. I wanted to protect you from the mess I left behind. I never wanted it to reach you like this." Emily looked into his eyes, searching for sincerity. "Daniel, I want to believe you, but every secret, every hidden truth, it shakes the foundation we're trying to rebuild." He reached for her hand, gripping it gently. "I understand, and I'll tell you everything. No more hiding, no more half-truths. You deserve that much." The cafe around them seemed to fade away as Emily and Daniel faced the unspoken challenge of honesty. They both knew that the path forward would demand more than love. It would demand trust, courage, and a willingness to confront the past together. Outside, the city's evening lights reflected on the wet pavement, shimmering like fragile hope. Within the little cafe, two hearts braced themselves for the storms ahead, aware that true love was not just about reunion, but about surviving the trials that life and the past would inevitably throw in their path. The next morning, Daniel and Emily agreed to meet at a quiet park near the river, a neutral place away from the cafe, away from prying eyes, and most importantly, away from judgment. The autumn breeze carried a faint chill, rustling the leaves as if nature itself mirrored the unease in their hearts. "Daniel, I need to know everything," Emily said, her voice firm yet trembling slightly. "No half-truths, no leaving things out. I can't rebuild something on uncertainty." Daniel nodded, his hands resting on his knees, his gaze steady. "You're right, Emily. You deserve the truth. Every detail." He took a deep breath. "Before I left, I made mistakes, big ones. I got involved in business ventures I didn't fully understand. I borrowed money, I mismanaged, and I hurt people I shouldn't have. I thought I could fix it on my own. I thought leaving would shield you from it. But I see now, I only caused more pain by disappearing." Emily's eyes filled with tears, a mixture of empathy and hurt. "You should have trusted me to face it with you. We could have faced it together." "I know," Daniel whispered, "and that's why I'm here now. No more running, no more hiding. I'll face it all, with you, for you, if you'll let me." They sat in silence, letting the weight of his words sink in. The river flowed beside them, constant and unrelenting, like the passage of time that had kept them apart. Then, unexpectedly, Emily's phone buzzed. It was a message from her mother. "Emily, we need to talk tonight. About Daniel, about you." Her heart sank. She hadn't expected the confrontation so soon. She shared the message with Daniel, who placed his hand over hers.
Whatever comes, we'll face it together, he said firmly. That evening, Emily returned home to a tense atmosphere. Her mother and father were waiting in the living room, their expressions unreadable. Emily, her father began, voice steady. We've heard things about Daniel's past, about the choices he made. We're concerned, not just for you, but for your future. Emily took a deep breath, standing her ground. I know, and I've spoken with him. He's been honest. I trust him. Yes, he made mistakes, but he's here now. I'm willing to take that risk. Her mother's eyes softened, but the worry remained. Emily, love isn't always enough. You need to be prepared for the consequences of his actions and how they may affect you. I am, Emily replied, a mixture of determination and vulnerability in her voice. I've spent 10 years waiting for a chance at happiness with him. I won't let fear stop me now. Later that night, Daniel arrived at Emily's door. He held a small envelope in his hand. I wanted to show you something, he said softly. Proof of the steps I'm taking to fix my past mistakes. I'm not asking for forgiveness yet. I'm asking for your trust, for patience. Emily took the envelope, opening it carefully. Inside were documents, plans, and letters, evidence of Daniel's efforts to make amends and set things right. Her eyes welled up with tears. Daniel, this means everything, she whispered. I can see you're serious, that you're committed. He smiled softly. I am. I've waited too long to do this half-heartedly. I won't make the same mistake twice. I promise. As they stood together, hand in hand, the weight of the past still lingered. So did the promise of a future built on honesty and courage. The road ahead would not be easy, and challenges were inevitable. But for the first time in years, Emily and Daniel truly believed that love, tested, scarred, and resilient, could endure anything. The night air was cool and fresh, carrying with it the faint scent of rain. For Emily and Daniel, it symbolized a cleansing, a chance to begin again. And in that fragile hope, they found strength, the strength to face the storms of yesterday, today, and tomorrow, together.
The morning sun streamed weakly through Emily's apartment window, but the light brought little warmth. Ever since her conversation with her parents, a knot of unease had lodged in her chest. The trust she had tried so hard to build with Daniel was fragile, constantly tested by reminders of the past and the skepticism of those around her. As she sipped her coffee, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Rachel. Emily, I didn't want to say anything earlier, but you should know, someone's been asking about Daniel. People from his past. They're not happy he's back. Emily's stomach tightened. She had feared external pressures, but hearing that they were already stirring sent a chill through her. She knew Daniel's past mistakes had left ripples, and now the consequences were beginning to appear. When Daniel arrived at their usual cafe later that afternoon, he looked weary but determined. I got a message today, he admitted, sliding into the seat across from her. Some people from my past. They're upset that I'm trying to rebuild my life. They're trying to interfere. Emily's fingers clenched around her cup. Do you think they could cause trouble for us? Daniel shook his head. I won't let them, not if we face it together. But we need to be prepared. This isn't going to be easy. Life doesn't let us rewrite everything without resistance. The day passed in tense anticipation. Emily couldn't concentrate at work, her mind spinning with what-ifs and lingering doubts. That evening, as she returned home, she found a letter slipped under her door. Her heart raced as she opened it. Inside were thinly veiled threats, warnings not to see Daniel, hints that his past could bring ruin, and a chilling message. Walk away or risk losing everything you hold dear. Emily's hands trembled. She felt fear, anger, and determination all at once. Her first instinct was to hide, to retreat, to protect herself from potential heartbreak. But then she thought of Daniel, the honesty he had shown, the efforts he had made to correct his past, and the courage he had displayed just to be with her. She dialed his number immediately. Daniel, we have a problem, she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through her veins. What is it?
His tone was calm, but Emily could sense his focus sharpening. She explained the letter, reading it aloud. When she finished, Daniel was silent for a long moment. Then he said firmly, "Emily, this doesn't change how I feel. It's a challenge, yes, but it's one we can face together. We can't let fear dictate our lives or our love." Emily took a deep breath. "You're right. I'm not going to run. Not now, not ever." Daniel reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "Then we face this together. Every threat, every doubt, every shadow from the past. Nothing will separate us if we're strong enough to stand together." The evening stretched on, and though the weight of external threats loomed large, Emily felt a flicker of hope. For the first time, she understood that love wasn't only about reunion or passion, it was about courage, resilience, and the willingness to confront the storms that life placed in one's path. Outside, the city lights shimmered against the darkening sky. Within the small cafe, two hearts braced for the challenges ahead, determined to fight not only for their love, but for the future they had dared to imagine, a future where honesty, trust, and unwavering commitment could withstand even the fiercest winds of conflict. The city streets were unusually quiet that evening, the soft hum of distant traffic masking the tension that Emily felt in her chest. She walked briskly toward the cafe, her mind replaying the threats from the letter, the whispers of Daniel's past, and the uncertainty that now surrounded them. Each step felt heavier than the last, as if the air itself weighed down with unspoken warnings. When she arrived, Daniel was already waiting, pacing near their usual table. His face, normally calm and reassuring, was tight with concern. "Emily," he said immediately as she approached, "we need to be careful. I've heard from a few people I trusted that they're planning to confront us, or worse." Emily's eyes narrowed. "Confront us? What do you mean?" Before Daniel could answer, the cafe door swung open. 3 men stepped inside, their expressions sharp, eyes scanning the room until they landed on Daniel. Emily's breath caught in her throat as she realized the threats had escalated from words to action. One of the men, tall and imposing, stepped forward. "Daniel," he said in a low, commanding voice, "we need to talk, now." Daniel rose slowly, placing himself slightly in front of Emily. "Not here," he said firmly. "Let's step outside. We can talk without causing a scene." Emily followed hesitantly, feeling the tension radiate like electricity in the cold evening air. Outside, the men's demeanor shifted from intimidating to accusatory. "You don't understand, Daniel. Your actions 10 years ago caused serious problems. People lost money, trust was broken, and you disappeared without a word. You think coming back fixes anything?" Daniel's jaw tightened, but his voice remained calm. "I know I made mistakes. I've spent years trying to make things right, but threatening me or Emily changes nothing. I'm here to face the consequences, not run from them." The men exchanged glances, tension thickening the air. Emily felt a surge of fear, but also determination. She stepped closer to Daniel. "You're not alone," she said firmly. "Whatever your past is, we face it together. I trust him. And if you think threats will scare us apart, you're wrong." Her courage seemed to surprise the men. One hesitated, then spoke with a grudging tone. "This isn't over, but you're braver than I thought. We'll see how long this lasts." They turned and left, disappearing into the night as quickly as they had appeared. Emily exhaled, her chest heaving with relief and lingering adrenaline. Daniel placed a hand over hers, squeezing gently. "You were incredible," he said softly. "I couldn't have faced that without you." Emily shook her head, still catching her breath. "No, we faced it together. That's what matters. If we can survive this, maybe we can survive anything." For the first time since their reunion, Emily felt the weight of their connection. Not just love, but trust, courage, and resilience. The challenges were real, the dangers tangible. Yet in that moment, she realized that together, they were stronger than anything life or the past could throw at them. As they walked back toward the cafe, hands intertwined, the city lights reflected on the wet pavement, shimmering like fragile hope. They had survived the first true test, external threats, past enemies, and fear itself, and emerged with a renewed understanding. Love wasn't just about reunion, passion, or forgiveness. It was about standing side by side, facing every storm, and refusing to let go.
The morning after the confrontation, Emily awoke with a heavy sense of both relief and lingering tension. The events of the previous night had left her exhilarated, but also deeply shaken. Her heart raced as she replayed the confrontation in her mind, the way Daniel had protected her, how they had stood together, and the realization that the challenges of his past were still very much alive. She arrived at the cafe early, needing to see Daniel to anchor herself. When he arrived a few minutes later, his expression was a mixture of exhaustion and relief. "You okay?" he asked, sitting down opposite her. Emily nodded, her fingers curling around her coffee cup. "I think so, but it's a lot to take in. I knew the past wasn't gone, but seeing it face to face, it's different." Daniel reached across the table, taking her hand gently. "I know, and I can't promise it will always be easy, but I can promise that I won't leave you to face it alone again. Not now, not ever." Her eyes softened and a small smile tugged at her lips. "I believe you, Daniel. I really do." Later that day, Emily decided to visit her parents. She needed their support, and she needed to show them that her love for Daniel was not naive. It was steadfast, informed, and courageous. Her parents greeted her warily, their eyes searching hers for signs of doubt. Emily took a deep breath. "Mom, Dad, I know you're worried about Daniel, and I understand, but I've seen how he's changed, how serious he is about making things right. I trust him, and I want you to trust him too." Her father exchanged a look with her mother before speaking. "Emily, we've seen him now. We saw how he handled the confrontation last night. It was impressive, and I think, perhaps, we underestimated the man he has become." Her mother nodded slowly. "You're strong, Emily, but so is he. Maybe together you can face whatever comes." Emily smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in weeks. Her parents' cautious approval didn't erase all her fears, but it strengthened her resolve. That evening, Daniel met Emily at the park again. The city lights reflected on the river, casting a serene glow over the landscape. "I talked to my parents," Emily said, her voice soft but steady. They're starting to see what I see in you." Daniel's eyes lit up with relief and gratitude. "That's good to hear, but more importantly, it matters that you see it, that you believe in us." Emily nodded, leaning closer. "I do, more than ever." Daniel wrapped an arm around her shoulders, drawing her close. "We've survived so much already, the distance, the past mistakes, the threats, and yet here we are, stronger." Emily rested her head on his shoulder, feeling the weight of the past lift just enough to allow hope to settle in. "I feel it too," she whispered, "like we can face anything, together." For a while, they simply sat there, letting the quiet of the park and the gentle lapping of the river soothe them. The storms of their past had tested them, the shadows had challenged them, but in that moment, they found clarity. Love was not just about passion or reunion, but about resilience, courage, and the willingness to fight for each other, no matter what the world threw at them. And in that fragile, precious calm, Emily and Daniel discovered something neither time nor hardship could ever take away: the certainty that together they were capable of weathering any storm.
The week had passed in a haze of tension and anticipation. Emily and Daniel had grown closer than ever, yet the shadows of Daniel's past continued to loom. Rumors, threats, and the subtle hostility of people he had once crossed had kept them on edge. But nothing could have prepared them for the crisis that would arrive that Thursday evening. Emily was finishing her shift at the cafe when her phone buzzed. The message was short, cryptic, and chilling. "Meet me at the old warehouse by the docks. Tonight. Alone. M." Her heart raced. She knew immediately who the sender was, one of the people from Daniel's past, someone who had been quietly waiting to strike. Fear and anger surged through her, but she couldn't ignore it. She called Daniel immediately. "Daniel, it's serious. Someone from your past, they're demanding I meet them, alone." Daniel's voice was sharp, filled with both urgency and determination. "Don't go. I'll handle this. We'll face it together, but not alone. I won't let them intimidate you." Emily hesitated, torn between fear and a sense of responsibility. "But Daniel, what if they threaten me anyway? I can't just ignore this." "Then we face it together," he insisted. "Pick you up in 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere." Within moments, Daniel arrived and they drove in tense silence toward the docks. The city streets blurred past, shadows stretching long in the streetlights. Neither spoke, each lost in their own thoughts of the dangers that awaited them. When they arrived, the warehouse loomed ominously against the night sky. Its broken windows and rusted doors gave it an air of menace, the perfect setting for the confrontation they had feared. As they approached, a figure emerged from the darkness. Mark's acquaintance, a man who had been one of Daniel's rivals years ago. His eyes glinted with malice. "Daniel," he said coldly, "you've returned, thinking you can fix everything. But some debts, they're not so easy to repay." Daniel stepped forward, protective instinct flaring. "We're not here to fight. I've come to make amends, to set things right. But I won't let you threaten anyone I care about." Emily stood beside him, her hand gripping his tightly. "We face this together. If you think fear can separate us, you're wrong." A tense silence followed. The man's eyes flicked between them, measuring their resolve. Then, unexpectedly, he threw a folder onto the ground. "Evidence," he spat. "Proof of your failures, Daniel. Let's see if your love can survive the truth." Daniel opened the folder carefully, scanning the contents. His past mistakes were laid bare: financial errors, unresolved conflicts, and some misdeeds that he had thought buried forever. Emily's stomach tightened, but instead of fear, she felt clarity. Daniel turned to her, eyes steady. "I won't deny it. I made mistakes, but I faced them. I've done everything I can to fix the damage, and I'll continue to do so, with you by my side." Emily nodded, tears pricking her eyes. "I know. I trust you, and I believe in us. No matter what this shows, no matter what the world says, we're together." The man studied them for a long moment, then, with a grudging respect, stepped back. "You're braver than I expected, but remember, life isn't fair, and consequences linger." As he retreated into the darkness, Emily and Daniel exhaled, their bodies trembling with adrenaline and relief. "Are you okay?" Daniel asked softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Emily nodded, leaning into him. "Yes, more than ever. We survived it. Together." The night air was cold, but the warmth between them burned brighter than ever. They had faced the first true test of their love, confronted the harsh shadows of the past, and emerged stronger, more united and ready for whatever life might throw next. In that fragile victory, Emily and Daniel realized something crucial. Love wasn't about avoiding challenges. It was about meeting them head-on, side by side, refusing to let fear or doubt dictate their path. And for the first time in years, they felt invincible, not because the world had changed, but because they faced it together.
The city was bathed in soft morning light, a gentle promise of new beginnings. Emily awoke with a sense of calm she hadn't felt in years. The confrontation at the warehouse,
though terrifying, had brought clarity. She realized that the strength of their bond didn't lie in the absence of challenges, but in the courage to face them together. By mid-morning, she received a message from Daniel. "Meet me at the cafe. I have something to share." Her heart raced, not from fear, but from excitement. When she arrived, Daniel was waiting, a small box in his hands and a gentle smile on his face. "Emily," he began, "we've faced so much, years apart, threats from the past, doubts and fears, but through it all, one thing has remained constant: my love for you. I don't want to wait another day to show it." He opened the box to reveal a delicate ring, simple yet elegant, symbolizing both commitment and the promise of a future together. Emily's eyes filled with tears. "Daniel, He took her hands in his. "I want us to face life as partners, as equals, with honesty, trust, and unwavering support. Emily, will you marry me?" Her heart overflowed. All the years of waiting, all the pain and separation, had led to this moment. She nodded, her voice choked with emotion. Yes, Daniel, I will." The cafe seemed to glow around them, the soft hum of conversation fading into insignificance. In that instant, the past, the mistakes, the fears, the threats, felt like distant echoes. What mattered was the present, the love they had fought for, and the life they were ready to build together. Later that day, Emily visited her parents once more, sharing the news. Her mother's eyes shimmered with tears, and her father's smile was wide and approving. "We see now that your love is stronger than we feared. You've chosen well, Emily. We're proud of you." Her father nodded, pulling her into a hug. "Daniel has proven himself, not just with words, but with courage, honesty, and heart. We trust him, and we trust you both to face the future together." Emily felt a warmth unlike anything she had ever known. The road had been long, filled with obstacles and heartbreak, but finally the pieces had fallen into place. That evening, she met Daniel at the river park, where they had shared so many conversations and confessions. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and gold. "We made it," Daniel whispered, holding her close. "Through everything, we made it." Emily rested her head on his shoulder. Yes, together, always together. For the first time in years, the future felt bright, open and unafraid. The past had tested them, shaping their resilience and deepening their love, but it no longer held power over their hearts. As the city lights reflected on the river, Emily and Daniel knew one thing with absolute certainty. Their love had endured time, distance, and adversity. Now it would endure everything the world could offer, not as two individuals haunted by the past, but as a united pair ready to write the rest of their story together, hand in hand. The night carried a gentle peace, a quiet celebration of hope, courage, and unwavering love. And under that twilight sky, Emily and Daniel's hearts beat as one, stronger, braver, and ready for the dawn of a new beginning. The weeks following their engagement were filled with a delicate mix of joy, adjustment, and discovery. Emily and Daniel had faced the storms of the past and survived, but now they faced the quieter, subtler challenges of rebuilding a life together. Morning routines, shared meals, and stolen moments of laughter became their anchors. Emily marveled at how ordinary tasks, cooking breakfast, walking through the city, even sitting in silence, felt extraordinary when shared with someone who truly understood her heart. Daniel, too, found a newfound calm. The past mistakes that had once haunted him were no longer shackles. They were lessons, reminders of how far he had come and how much he was willing to fight for love. One rainy afternoon, they found themselves in the park where so many pivotal conversations had occurred. Emily watched the raindrops ripple across the pond, her hand intertwined with Daniel's. "You know," she said softly, "I never thought this life would feel so full, so simple yet so perfect." Daniel smiled, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. "It's funny, isn't it? We spent years chasing time, running from mistakes, and yet here we are, and it feels like we've been here forever." Emily leaned her head on his shoulder. "I feel like all the pain, all the waiting was worth it. I wouldn't trade a moment, even the hard ones, because they brought me to you." Daniel kissed the top of her head, "And I'd endure every mistake, every shadow, just to be here with you now." As the rain continued, they shared laughter, memories, and dreams for the future. They spoke of traveling together, building a home, and perhaps one day welcoming a family, imagining a life filled with love that no storm could erode. Emily's parents had grown closer to Daniel as well, witnessing his unwavering commitment and the quiet strength he brought to her life. Rachel and Mark, once wary of their relationship, now respected the bond they shared, acknowledging that trust and courage had triumphed over doubt. Even the remnants of Daniel's past, the rivals, the threats, and the mistakes, had begun to fade into distant shadows. He had confronted them, made amends, and emerged unbroken, his character strengthened by every trial. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, Daniel turned to Emily with a soft, serious gaze. "Emily," he said, "we faced everything that life could throw at us. But the truth is, the best part of our journey isn't behind us, it's ahead. Every day, every moment is a chance to choose each other, again and again, and I want to choose you, always." Emily smiled through her tears, feeling the depth of the bond that had survived years of separation, heartbreak, and uncertainty. "And I choose you, Daniel. Today, tomorrow, always." They held each other close, the world around them fading into insignificance. The city lights reflected on the wet streets, echoing the shimmering hope in their hearts. In that quiet, perfect moment, Emily and Daniel knew that life, with all its unpredictability, would never diminish their love. They had reclaimed what was lost, built a foundation stronger than fear, and discovered that true love was not just about passion. It was resilience, trust, and unwavering commitment. The rain subsided, leaving the streets glistening like a promise. And as they walked hand in hand through the city, hearts aligned and spirits unbroken, they understood the most profound truth of all. Together, they were home. The morning sun bathed the city in golden light, signaling a day that Emily and Daniel had both anticipated for months, the day they would officially begin the next chapter of their lives together. The weeks of planning, laughter, and quiet preparation had led to this moment, a culmination of years of longing, struggle, and unwavering love. Emily stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the delicate details of her dress. Her heart raced, not with nerves, but with anticipation. Every trial they had faced, the separation, the misunderstandings, the threats, and the reconciliations, had led them here. She was ready. Daniel arrived shortly after, a mixture of excitement and tenderness in his eyes. He reached for her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "You look perfect," he whispered, his voice full of awe. Emily smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "And you look like the man I've been waiting for all these years." The ceremony was small but radiant, held in the park by the river, the same place where so many pivotal moments had shaped their journey. Friends and family gathered, their faces reflecting joy, relief, and admiration for the couple who had weathered every storm together. Her parents, once cautious and uncertain, now beamed with pride and affection. "We've watched you both grow, and it's clear that your love is unshakable," her father said, his voice steady with emotion. The officiant spoke of love's endurance, of courage and resilience, and how true commitment was proven not just in joy, but in trials. When Daniel took Emily's hands in his gaze never wavered. "Emily, we have faced every shadow from the past, every doubt and every fear, and yet through it all, my love for you has only grown stronger. I promise to cherish you, support you, and face every tomorrow with you by my side." Emily's voice was steady, though her heart overflowed. "Daniel, I promise to stand by you, to trust you, and to love you through every challenge and every joy. You are my heart, my home, and my forever." The words hung in the air, a solemn vow and a celebration of a love that had endured time, distance, and adversity. When they exchanged rings, it was more than a symbol. It was a promise forged in resilience, courage, and unwavering devotion. As the ceremony concluded, the river reflected the fading sunlight, shimmering like the future they had fought so hard to reclaim. Friends and family celebrated around them, laughter and cheers filling the air, but for Emily and Daniel, the world had narrowed to a single truth. They were together, and nothing could undo the love they had rebuilt. Later, standing side by the riverbank, Emily rested her head on Daniel's shoulder. "We made it," she whispered. "Yes," Daniel replied softly, kissing her forehead. "We did, and now the rest of our lives begin." For the first time in a decade, the past felt distant, irrelevant against the clarity of their love. Every obstacle had been met with courage, every fear confronted with trust, and every heartbreak transformed into a step toward this moment. As night fell and city lights reflected on the water like a million tiny stars, Emily and Daniel held each other close. The world around them was vast and unpredictable, yet within their embrace there was certainty, warmth, and unshakable peace. Together, they had endured the trials of the past, conquered the storms of the present, and stepped into a future bright with promise. And in that eternal moment, they understood a profound truth. Love, when nurtured with honesty, courage, and unwavering commitment, is truly unstoppable. Forever had begun, not just as a word, but a life, a bond, and a shared journey that neither time nor hardship could ever undo.